The next time you're walking through your facility or the next time you're in a room with your frontline supervisors, I want you to ask the first 10 people you find a simple question. What's your team's mission? See how many give you the same answer. See how many give you any answer. Most of them will look at you like you just asked them something in a foreign language. Some will give you a production target. Some will tell you what they're working on this week. A few might scramble for their ID cards because they're pretty sure something's written on the back of them somewhere. But a clear, confident answer to the question, what is your team's mission? One that includes what they're trying to accomplish, what winning looks like, and why it matters to their team specifically. That answer is typically nowhere to be found. A company where the frontline can't answer that question might be a company with a mission statement, but it isn't a company on a mission. Those two are very different things. Well, welcome back to the Frontline Leadership Podcast, where we help frontline leaders become professional leaders that transform their business bottom lines in the process. I'm your host, Craig Coyle, former Apache helicopter pilot, aerospace leader, and the founder of Operation Lead. And today, we're covering a topic I am deeply passionate about, a concept that was ingrained into me at the very onset of my professional career, and one I believe is grossly misunderstood and misapplied in the corporate world. So let's dive in. Welcome back. If you've been following along with this podcast, you know that we've spent a good amount of time building the foundation, the mindset shifts, the identity work, the self-leadership principles that every frontline supervisor or leader in general has to wrestle with before they can lead anybody else effectively. That foundation matters. You can't skip it. But today we start building on top of it. We're moving into what I call the Preflight Operating System, the daily structures, disciplines, and routines that separate leaders who execute consistently from ones who just show up and manage whatever's in front of them. And this arc starts with mission clarity, not because it's the most exciting topic in leadership, but because it's the most foundational one. Everything we're going to talk about over the next several episodes, how to run a meeting that actually accomplishes something, how to manage competing priorities without losing your mind, how to make good decisions under pressure, all of it depends on this first. You cannot build a functional operating system without a mission at the center of it. So that's where we start today. I spent a lot of time in rooms with manufacturing and operations leaders over the past few years, on stages, on podcasts, and discovery conversations. And one of the things I come back to over and over again is this. The military has been executing mission-driven operations for centuries. The discipline of defining a mission, nesting it through every level of an organization, and ensuring that every single person, from the general to the most junior soldier, can clearly articulate their piece of it. That's not a leadership philosophy. It's doctrine. It's been tested, refined, and proven in environments where the cost of getting it wrong isn't a missed quarter or a bad performance review. It's lives, societies, and civilizations. Somewhere between the military and the corporate world, something has gotten lost in translation. Here's what made it across. Just the word mission. Turned into a framed aspirational feel-good statement, an off-site exercise where the leadership team spends a day and a half crafting something everybody can agree on. It's the laminated wallet card, the slide in the new hire orientation deck. But what didn't make it across is the discipline behind it, the understanding of what a mission actually is, what it's supposed to do, and most importantly, how it's supposed to flow from the top of the organization all the way down to the person doing the work. The result is organizations have a mission statement, but they aren't on a mission. And most of them genuinely don't know the difference. Before we can fix the problem, we have to define the terms. Because part of how this got so muddled in the corporate world, I believe, is that There are three distinct concepts that got collapsed into one word, and then that one word got watered down until it didn't mean much of anything anymore. Vision, mission, and purpose are not interchangeable. They serve completely different functions. So let's separate them. Vision is where you're going. It's the destination, long-term, aspirational, directional. It answers one question. What does our organization look like when we've built what we set out to build? Vision belongs at altitude, should be inspiring, it's supposed to be. But vision doesn't tell anyone what to do tomorrow. It's not its job. And then purpose is why it matters. It's the fuel. It's the moral and emotional reason the work is worth doing beyond a paycheck or a profit margin. Purpose answers, why does this organization exist? It connects work to meaning. It gives people a reason to care. But purpose alone doesn't give anyone direction. It energizes, but it doesn't navigate. Mission is the bridge. This is the execution tool. It sits between the vision and the work that actually gets done. It answers, what are we specifically trying to accomplish? What does winning look like? And why? Now, here's where it gets important. And this is something most organizations completely miss. Mission operates at two distinct levels. There's the strategic mission, the long horizon, organizational. This lives close to the vision. It defines what the organization is building over months and years, and it carries purpose with it. We're doing this, and here's why it matters. This is the mission that comes out of the executive suite. And then there's the tactical mission, short horizon, execution focused. This is the frontline supervisors domain. The tactical mission answers, what are we accomplishing right now, this week, this shift, today, and what does winning look like when we clock out? The tactical mission is just as purposeful as the strategic one. It just operates on a different time frame and a much higher level of specificity. And purpose threads through both. It's not a separate tier, it's the connective tissue that keeps the strategic and the tactical from being disconnected. A strategic mission without purpose is just a growth target. And a tactical mission without purpose, as we'll get into in a moment, is just a task list. And the failure that most organizations make, they write one statement that tries to do all three jobs at once. Inspire like a vision, fuel like a purpose, direct like a mission. And it ends up doing none of them well. It's too vague to execute against, too corporate to energize anyone, and critically, it's completely impossible to nest. In the Army, a mission isn't an inspirational concept. It's the operational foundation for everything that follows. And it has a specific, non-negotiable structure. Every mission at every level is built on two components, task and purpose. Task is what we're doing, specific, observable, measurable. The task is the action. And purpose is why we're doing it, the reason that this task matters to the larger operation. The purpose is the intent. Without both, it isn't a mission. A task without a purpose is just an authoritative order. It says, do this because I'm telling you to. And soldiers can follow orders without understanding them, but they cannot adapt, prioritize, or make sound decisions in the field when conditions change without understanding why the task matters. The purpose is what enables judgment. Without it, you have compliance. With it, you have soldiers who can execute the spirit of the mission even when the situation doesn't go according to plan. And more importantly, you give them a reason to buy in to the tasks at hand. Now here's how it nests. In a complex military operation, the mission flows down through every level of the organization. And at each level, the leader receives the task in the larger mission and translates it into what it means specifically for their organization. The battalion commander receives a mission from the brigade. He defines what accomplishing that mission requires from his battalion, the specific task his unit is responsible for, and the purpose that connects it to the larger operation. Then the company commander takes the battalion's mission and defines what it means for her company. Same structure, task and purpose, but scope to her piece of the operation. Then the platoon leader takes the company's mission and translates it for his platoon. Again, task and purpose at his level for his people. The squad leader takes the platoon's mission and brings it all the way to the ground. She can tell every soldier in that formation exactly what they're doing, why they're doing it, and what success looks like when they execute their piece. At every level, the mission is translated, not copied. Each leader takes the larger intent in their specified task and answers one question. What does this mean for us, specifically, right now? By the time you reach the most junior soldier in that formation, they can answer 3 questions without hesitation. What are we doing? Why does it matter? And what does success look like for my piece of this? That is mission nesting. That's what the corporate world borrowed the word mission from and left the entire discipline of behind. So if this discipline is so powerful and so proven, why isn't it showing up on the production floor? 3 reasons, and I want to be specific about each one. First is translation failure. Organizational mission statements are written at altitude for external audiences by people who won't be held accountable for executing them. They use language that sounds good in a conference room and means nothing on a factory, production, or hospital floor. And critically, nobody translates it. The assumption was that people would figure out what the mission means for their team. But they won't and they don't. They can't. The language wasn't built for translation or execution. It was built for a website. Second is ownership failure. Ask yourself an honest question. Who in your organization is specifically responsible for ensuring that a clearly understood mission has reached the frontline supervisor and that each supervisor understands the mission clearly enough to lead their team around? In most organizations, that question doesn't have a clean answer. It falls in the gap between the senior leader's responsibility to set direction and the supervisor's responsibility to execute. Nobody owns the translation, so it doesn't happen. And third, and this is the most consequential one, the task survives, but the purpose doesn't. When mission nesting breaks down in a corporate organization, what typically survives the trip downward is the task, the production target, the quota, the shift goal. Those numbers make it to the floor, but the purpose gets stripped out at every translation layer. By the time it reaches the frontline supervisor, they have a number to hit. That's it. No context, no connection, no reason that means anything to the people that they're leading. A team with a task and no purpose isn't a team on a mission. They're just working. There's a meaningful difference between those two things in how people engage, and how they make decisions, and how they show up when the shift gets hard and something unexpected goes wrong. It entirely misses the human dimension of leadership. Now, I want to be direct about what the absence of mission clarity actually costs, because it's easy to treat this as a soft problem. It's a culture issue, something that would be nice to fix when there's time, but there's never time, and it isn't soft. When there's no mission, supervisors become task managers. Without a mission to lead toward, the only visible thing to manage is what's directly in front of you. The shifts become a series of transactions. This got done, that didn't. Here's yesterday's problem. There's no direction, no forward motion, no reason for the team to operate any differently tomorrow than they did today. Leadership without mission is just management with a better title. Secondly, shift-to-shift consistency and team-to-team collaboration collapses. When supervisors don't share a mission, each one runs their own version of the operation. One shift's priorities don't match the next shift's. Team members learn to read the supervisor, not the mission. Performance varies wildly depending on who's on that day. Adjacent teams live in silos and don't operate in support of one another. The organization isn't executing a strategy. It's executing whoever shows up. And third, your best people leave first. High performers have capacity beyond their job description. We all know that. They have discretionary energy, effort that they can give above and beyond what's required. When their work doesn't connect to a purpose, when there's no mission to contribute to, that capacity goes unused. They don't fade slowly, they leave. And when you ask them why, they tell you it was compensation, or an opportunity, or schedule. And that might be why they left, but it isn't why they started looking. And the senior leader becomes the ceiling. When mission clarity doesn't exist below the executive level, every significant question flows upward. The leader who should be operating at the strategic level gets pulled back into the floor constantly. You've all been there. The organization can't scale. It stalls. It's held back by a leadership ceiling that exists precisely because the mission never made it to the people who needed it most. So what does a well-formed mission actually look like at any level of your organization? Task and purpose applied to your operation. A mission at any level needs to answer these three questions. 1, what are we specifically trying to accomplish? Concrete, measurable priorities, not aspirational language. If you can't measure it, it isn't a mission. It's a motto. 2, what does winning look like and by when? A time frame and a definition of success. The mission has to be completable, at least at the tactical level. Whether it's an end of shift or end of week or end of Q4, the time frame has to exist. No time frame means no finish line, and no finish line means no way to know if you've won. And 3, why does this matter? In a language this team understands, not the language the marketing department wrote, not the framed statement. The purpose has to be translated just like the task. Why does this mission matter to these people right now at their level? Put together, the formula is simple. We will accomplish this by when, because why. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. First, in the Army model, and then I'll translate it into a manufacturing example. So here's the Army version. For a battalion, we will seize and hold the bridge at grid 447662 by 0600 to prevent enemy reinforcement of the northern sector, enabling the brigade to execute its flanking maneuver. So here you've got a clear tactical task, a time and place it has to be accomplished by, and a reason to do it nested within the brigade's mission. Here's the companies. We will clear and secure the eastern approach to the bridge, so nested within the battalion's tactical task, by 0400, nested in timeline, in order to set the condition for Bravo Company's bridge assault. So assuming here that their sister company in the battalion has a similar task that they have to support. And then how that would flow to the platoon. We will clear Bravo sector and eliminate any prepared defensive positions by 0350 in order to enable the company's securing of the eastern approach to the bridge. So again, you can see here, from battalion to company to platoon, each of the tactical tasks, each of the timelines, and each of the purposes are all nesting with each other. Every level is different. Every level nests inside one of the other. Every level carries a task and purpose. Now, watch what happens when we translate that into what would be a fictional manufacturing environment. Here's the executive level. We will achieve 99% on-time delivery and reduce customer defects by 15% by Q4 in order to improve our performance over the next 6 months prior to our largest customer contract renewal period and posture our organization for sustained growth. So a clear task, actionable with a clear deadline with a clear reason. Here's how we can translate that to the plant level. We will reduce late to start orders by 5% and total rework production time by 10% to create measurable improvements in on-time delivery by the end of Q3. Because the only path to 99% on-time delivery runs through this floor, and Q3 is our window to prove it. So here you can see a plant manager taking that task and breaking it into a smaller chunk to create a measurable growth track to accomplish that plant's role in the overall organization's journey. And here's how that might flow down to the frontline supervisor. We will start and complete all planned production orders on time or earlier this week so that downstream departments have what they need to meet their commitments. Because on-time delivery doesn't happen at the shipping dock. It starts here. As you can see, same structure, different levels, different time frames, same discipline, task and purpose, all the way to the floor. That is mission nesting applied to your operation. Now, one critical caveat before we move on. This is not a one-time exercise. Mission nesting isn't something you build at an offsite and laminate. It's an ongoing discipline, a process that never fully stops. Conditions change, priorities shift, the strategic mission gets refined at the top. That refinement flows down. The plant manager translates the update. The frontline supervisor then shows up the next morning, prepared to give their team a mission that reflects where the organization is right now not where it was 6 months ago. At every level, leaders have to be constantly receiving updated direction, refining their own mission and response, and communicating it downward. This is what being on a mission actually means in practice. Not a statement that gets written once, it's a living operating rhythm. Refined and communicated, all the way to the floor. How you build the communication cadence that keeps that rhythm alive, that's what we're getting into next episode. But it starts here, with a mission clear enough to nest. I want you to picture the same floor, same people, same supervisors, 6 months after mission nesting is working. The morning huddle takes 2 minutes. The supervisor doesn't read from notes. They know the mission. They know what winning looks like today, and they can tell every person in that circle exactly how their role connects to it. Not because they're inspired, but because they have clarity, and clarity is what gets work done. The senior leader stops getting pulled into the same questions, not because the problem stopped, but because the people closest to the problems now have enough context to handle them. The mission gave them direction. The nesting gave them the authority to act within it without waiting for someone above them to make the call. New team members orient faster, not because of a better onboarding deck, but because the mission is alive in how the team talks about their work. It's in how the supervisor opens the morning. It's in how decisions get made mid-shift. It's in how the shift ends and what gets handed to the next crew. Veterans re-engage, not because of a new initiative or a recognition program, but because their work is finally connecting to something larger than a production number. Purpose does that. A nested mission delivers it. The frontline stops being the place where organizational strategy goes to get lost in translation, but becomes a place where it actually gets executed. Look, if you're listening to this and recognizing the gap, if you're honest with yourself about whether your frontline supervisors could pass the test I described at the top of this episode, start with the mission details section of the leader's pre-flight checklist. Step 1 is straightforward. Create a clear and compelling mission statement that defines success. Not a brand statement, not a vision, a mission with a task, a standard, and a purpose that every supervisor on your floor could repeat back to you in their own words without looking at a wall. That's the test. If they can't pass it, that's where the work starts. You can download the leader's pre-flight checklist at operationlead.com. And if you're a senior leader looking at your operation and recognizing that this isn't just a wording problem, that mission clarity is a systemic gap running through every level of your front line, go to operationlead.com to learn about our system and process. This episode was all about going from mission statement to on a mission at every single level. Next week, we talk about the communication cadence that keeps the mission alive every single day. Until then, I'm Craig Coyle, and this is the Frontline Leadership Podcast. Let's do it.